Hello, everybody. Welcome. These are our Wednesday night just business trainings. We're going to be spending every week on Wednesday 30 minutes just going specifically over business strategy. So tonight we are talking all about reaching out to business people, business resistance, what to say, what to do, what if they ghost us,
How to
what?
speak to or how to respond to business resistance. That's the topic.
Okay, he's better at that. I have more, girls have more words. So the first thing that we want to talk about is when you're thinking of who you're going to message, right? You have a couple of people in mind. You want to think of a few things. You want to think of what do they do for a living? What motivates them? Is it money? Is it trips, prizes, community, time freedom, maybe? And then you're going to be creating personalized messages for each of them. It's not going to be a message where you copy and paste and send it out. This is a very thought out, personalized message because this is a very personal question, right? It's a very
Well, everyone's going to be a little bit different, right?
Everyone's going to be a little different. So we have a way to reach out to people in 4 ways. So when you reach out to people, think of it as you're complimenting them. You're not necessarily like, hey, will you do this business with me? Right? You're think of it like, how can I compliment this person and just tell them what I think, right? And so these are the 4 things you want to talk about. First, you want to compliment their character. Are they smart, funny, easygoing,
trustworthy?
Yeah. And then second, compliment their ambition. You want to list out some ambitions?
Yes, I mean, you're a hard worker. They're very motivated. They stick with things. They are always focused. I mean, they're always working hard towards their goals, whatever it is, right? But they're just someone that in their line of work or in their life, you see that there's some kind of ambition, right? Like they're passionate about finishing their degree. They're fired up about, they're starting their new career, right? Whatever it is, we want people that have ambition, right? So we want to complement that. We want to pick out those things, right? Starting with some character and then talk about their ambition.
Yes. And then we're going to want to ask, have you ever thought of ... Okay. Have you ever thought of using your character and your ambition for making an extra 1 to 2K a month? So don't say character and your ambition, say what you
Well,
have
you ever thought of using what you feel?
Well, if someone's super funny and has a huge community and they've let's say they have a master's degree because they've stuck to something for a long period of time. Like, hey, you have such an amazing community. Everybody, like when I think of you, you always have a smile on your face or you're always making someone laugh. And I know you have a ton of ambition with how much you have been in college and all the things that you've accomplished in your life. Have you ever thought of using, your character and that hard work that you have already to help your friends and family and earn an extra 1 to 2K a month? Right? So that's the third part. The fourth part is end it with a question. You want to go into why we always end things with questions?
Yeah. So our brain is wired to want to respond, right? I forget exactly what it's called, but there's a term for that. Like when you ask someone a question, like we want to respond to it, right? Like versus just saying, "Let me know," right? Let me know what you think. That's like an open-ended question, right? Or open-ended statement. We don't want to leave with that. We want to leave with them with the question, asking them something so they're thinking about it, right? That's going to require them or encourage them to respond back, right? So ending with the question is super important. Anytime we're talking, anytime we're following up with people, whether it's about the business, the products, or anything, we always want to end whatever the message is with some type of question. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go out ahead and put an example out. I'm just going to use let's say a CrossFit trainer, right? Someone that has health and fitness under their belt. They have a community. So like, hey, I love how amazing of a coach you are. You've been a coach for so many years. And your community is huge. I know you've worked really hard to have that leadership that you have. Have you ever thought of using that community and that leadership that you already have to make an extra 1 to 2K a month? And the question at the end, even though that is a question, say, would you like more information? Just something very simple.
Or you could turn it into something like, does that sound like something you're interested in, right? Like you're probing them, right? You're asking them, you're trying to get them to respond to that, right?
Yeah, and these are best done in a voice message. So it will be something that you want to do a voice message because it's more personal. And we were kind of talking about how these messages are already more personalized for people. Um, so we're going to talk a little bit about resistance, right? We're going to go right into that. That's just the basic for making your creating a message. Compliment character, compliment their ambition, ask, have you ever thought of, and end it with a question.
Real quick before we go into the next part. So you guys, so a lot of times when we're talking about the products, like it's a lot of copy and paste kind of stuff, right? It's very similar stuff. We're initiating, but really when we look at reaching out about the business, it really is important that we spend some time thinking about that person, right? Maybe we do a little research on them, right? We look on there, you're like, well, I know them, but I don't know them that well. Maybe what do they do for work? And you start looking, you're like, oh, that's right. Oh my gosh, yeah, I love how they do this. And you start finding some stuff that stands out to you, right? Because we want to leave an impact, right? And who doesn't love to be complimented, right? And we want it to be a compliment, like a genuine, honest, from the heart compliment. We don't want it to be like we're just kind of blowing smoke up there kazoo, right?
Well, yeah.
We want to actually have some thought into it, right? Oh, you're really pretty and you're smart. Have you thought about like we want it to be like something that people are going to be like proud of that you're noticing in them, right? Um, and so we really want to make sure we're spending a good amount of time, like forethought, right? Thinking about this message and putting it together and kind of following that framework. And I would recommend when doing that, practice it a little bit, right? Just do a couple voice recordings, right? Or video yourself just so you can hear. You're like, does that sound weird? Or does that sound genuine? And then like it doesn't have to be perfect, but just so you can know, like, okay, I don't sound like a robot, right? Or I'm rushing, or I'm not, right? So we want it to sound very natural. So doing a little bit of practicing will help. I've done some of that when I post some videos like that, or like I'll practice a little bit. So I just wanted to throw that in there before we moved on.
And also, we always talk about pray and work. So if you're praying before, pray that God helps you with your list of people that you're writing down, and that He would put on their hearts what you're about to ask them, right? So always have that in mind when you're going to reach out to people. It's very personal, and we care about people a lot, and we really do want to help them. And so doing all of that is going to come across in your messaging and how you're asking.
Yeah.
Here we got one more. I think Jeff jumped off on accident. Okay, so now we're going to go into some of the more common resistance, because when you ask someone to do something like this, even when you ask someone to do the products, you're going to get resistance, right? That's just a human thing. Like we want to be too busy. We want to not be able to do it. We not want to not have a community. Like, oh, no one's going to want that, right? Because that's the easy way out, right? And so
all those excuses.
Expect the resistance because it's coming, right? And I think I told Tracy this last week. Your first time you ask someone, they're not going to say yes. Maybe
if they do,
if you message 100 people, probably you'll get one.
If they do, go play the lottery, right? Because they're most like, unless it's like your best friend or something like that. Like he's like, I did it.
So we are go
get some numbers.
We're gonna go into some of the common resistance, and we're gonna talk a little bit about. We're just gonna use feel felt found for everything.
Feel felt found is the magic formula. If you aren't using it, that's going to be the magic.
So basically the first resistance, which you guys can probably all relate to, is I'm not a salesperson. You want to do that one? You're good at that one.
Am I?
Yeah.
I'm not a salesperson though.
But I'm not a salesperson.
What was the last thing that you said?
I was talking about how we're going to use feel felt found for all the resistance that we're getting from people.
And we'll talk about the feel felt found.
That's it. Felt what?
Found.
Feel felt found. So basically when people respond and you're like, hey, I think you'd be really good at this. What do you think? They're going to be like, automatically, I'm not a salesperson, right? Or some sort of resistance. And Jenna Hutella, which is some of
You
your
guys know
upline.
Jenna? You guys ever heard of Jenna?
She had a great post up because we're always looking for like, how can we help people with this resistance? Because it's not necessarily a real one. It's just their kind of their insecurity talking them out of doing something great, right? So are you gonna read it?
Yeah. So I'm gonna just kind of read it real quick. So, and I think most of you guys have probably heard it. So someone told me the other day that they can't do what I do because they aren't good at sales, right? And so it's important for us to understand that this is not sales like a car salesman. This is not sales like a computer salesman. This is not sales like a door-to-door salesman. This is very different, right? And so she goes on to say, like, salespeople, the typical salespeople don't thrive because what our friends and family want is somebody that's authentic, that's real, that's trustworthy, right? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build that trust with our friends and family. Okay. And that's why why when we market, it's not, we're not putting up a bunch of ads and trying to market to everybody. We're talking to our friends and family. We're putting up social media stuff to our friends and family. Okay. So she said, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not an influencer. I love people. I want to share what has helped literally thousands of people feel better, stronger, more confident, and less stressed. Right. And so there's a bunch of other stuff she says that's great. But really the most important part about that is we're not salespeople what most people think salespeople are. We're authentic, genuine, trustworthy friends or family who are sharing something that's helped us, and we want to help our friends. We're not, that's why we don't do the sleazy sales tactics. We don't do all that stuff. Okay. Yeah. And so when someone says that, our response needs to be, I totally understand how you feel. When I started this, I felt the same way. I didn't want to be, I was like, I'm not a salesperson. I totally felt the same way. But what I found was the people that thrive in this type of business are like, what people want is real, trustworthy, authentic, genuine people. That's who they want to deal with. That's how this business works. So those are the type of people that thrive in this kind of business.
Yeah.
Right. So I did the feel, I did the felt, and I did the found. Right. And it's super easy. When you do it, you're like, it's kind of really easy. I know how you feel. Right. And if you don't have a personal example, I know how you feel. My friend Tracy felt the same way. Right. And then you go into that.
And what
she found was, right. And so the feel, felt, found is just the template. That is like the magic formula when responding to any resistance, product, business, whatever it is. Okay. If you're, no one in here is single, but if you were single and a girl was like, I'm not really interested, you'd be like, I know how you feel. I felt the same way. But what I found was
a good example.
It might work. I'm just saying.
Really?
I
did marry
anyways.
Him, so.
But feel, felt, found for I'm not a salesperson. Okay. The next one, I don't have time. Right.
Ooh, that's a big one.
I think those two are probably the biggest ones. I'm not a salesperson. I don't have time. Another good one. I'm not good at social media. I don't have a big following. And these are all things that we know based on people that have been successful in Plexus. We know that's not true, that you don't have to have that stuff, right? I don't want to be one of those people who post Plexus all the time. Oh, it's a pyramid scheme. I want to get results first. None of my friends have money, right? So those are like a lot of common, those are the common, like that's the common resistance that we're going to experience, right? We're going to hear that stuff back. You guys have probably heard several of those if you've reached out to people about the products or the business. Okay.
I was going to fill out a couple of them.
Yeah, go for it.
So just when you approach these things, like you maybe just write all of these down, the different resistance that you can think of, and have something ready so you're not caught off guard, right? Or I mean, if you're talking to them through text, you'll have a little bit of time. You can always ask your upline what to say. But the resistance of I don't have time. And what I think of that is like, that's perfect because that's more reason why you need to do this. You don't have any time for your family. You're stressed out all the time. You're working all the time, right? So I totally understand how you feel. I felt the same way because I'm a full-time firefighter. I work 96-hour shifts at a time. But what I found was that there's a very simple system that I've learned, and it takes me minimum 30 minutes to 45 minutes a day. right? It's not a lot of extra
I can
time.
fit it in the nooks and crannies of my day.
Fit it in the nooks and crannies of my day. I'm not good at social media, right? I totally understand how you feel. I hadn't put up a post in 3 years. But what I found was when I started sharing about the things that were helping me with Plexus, that people started reaching out to me because they also were suffering with some of the things I was. Low energy, bloating, right? I don't have a big following. I totally understand how you feel because my friend Brooke, she had like 100 followers on her Instagram when she started, had 6 kids, had no extra time, no community. She just took care of kids and fed them and took care of them. But what she found was that as she started to connect with people, she actually did have a lot of people that cared about her, a lot of people in her community, and she was able to connect with those people in this community, and that's how she started her business. And now she's a triple diamond, right? Making millions of dollars a year.
Boom.
Boom.
Like that.
I don't want to be one of those people who post Plexus all the time. I totally understand how you feel. My friend Karen just talked about this the other day. She literally said this to her son, and what she found and what she said was that what she found is that the friend that she was saying, like, I don't want to be like that friend, is she was making 6 figures a year. And so what she found was that she wanted to do that too. So she put that, that thought behind her. Pyramid schemes. You want to talk about that? Phil found it?
Yeah. Simple. I totally understand how you feel. When I was first introduced to network marketing, I didn't know if it was legitimate. I felt the same way as you because I just didn't know. I'm like, is this a Ponzi scam? Is this whatever? I don't know. Is this like, how can you make money from doing this? But what I found is that network marketing, especially companies like this, they're actually heavily regulated by the FCC. They have to follow certain guidelines, and they're actually real legitimate companies. And I know that because I have a friend that's been doing this for 8 years, and she's a double diamond, and and I can just kind of go on into that, right? And so you really can look at any of this resistance and just start practicing, like, really what, like, that felt found, like, really practice it, because like as you do it, it becomes really easy. And it's much easier to type it or text it, right, when it's something new like this, because you have time to think. But when you're speaking with somebody on the phone, in person, you want to be able to just kind of draw on that, right? And it doesn't have to be this like perfect thing. It's basically just letting people know that you understand where they're coming from. You felt that same way, or something has experienced that. They're not weird. They're not, like, that's normal. And then you want to let them know, like that's okay. But what we found is this, like, it's actually not that. It's not a pyramid scheme. You don't have to spend a ton of time on it. You don't have to be this kind of, right. So we're just addressing their resistance and like making them feel comfortable and letting them know, like, it's okay. Like, this is normal, and that's not even real. Like, you're going to be totally fine and amazing at this, right? Yeah. Because a lot of times we'll put up those walls as someone giving that resistance, like making excuses. We put up those walls out of fear because we don't think we can do it, right? And all of us here have been at that point or we're at that point regularly where you're like, I don't think I can do it. Whatever that rank is, you're like, yeah, I want to make that rank, but I don't think I can do it, right? And so we have these excuses come up, okay? So let's move on, Jermaine, to what's next.
What if they say yes?
Is that worse? If they say yes, you're like,
what do I do?
Oh, shoot, what do I say now?
It sounds really easy, but what do I do if they say yes? We'll call Jenna. I'm just kidding. So this is actually a very short note for us because it almost always needs to go in this direction. Okay. So you could get on a phone call with them or talk to them and tell them your experience. Like, so far, blah, 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 blah. I love the team, the community. I shared with just 3 people and made this month. You can share your experience. Or the best thing to do is to get them on a call with your upline.
Yes.
And to use that, like, hey, I don't really know a ton, like, you're kind of new, and I know you probably have a ton of questions. Are you open to jumping on a call with the friend
with my coach or
the friend who helped me? right?
Whoever your upline is, whatever you want to call them, right? You can have whatever name you want. I would recommend not really saying your upline. I would say my coach, my teammate, my friend, my mentor, something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's because it's not like it there, you have a relationship, and so you want to express that you have a relationship. It's not just some random person from Plexus, right? It's like actually your friend. Yeah, let's jump on my friend. She's been doing this for a long time, or he's been doing this for a long time. Or let me get my, like Jeff, you're like, yeah, let's jump on a call with my wife. Or, you know what I mean? Like we can do, it can go any direction you want, whoever you want to have jump on that call. But going with your upline, they're going to have more experience and they're really going to be able to help cast that vision, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We want people to catch that vision.
Yeah. So either you call them and we like to call it belly time. That's what Jenna calls it. Tummy time, belly time, when you're talking one-on-one with someone. Okay. So just to talk to them about the business more, maybe just share your experience if you're on the phone with them. So what if they say, you're brave for a cold message? So I'm just going to share this one real quick because I got this. I voice messaged a friend and she's like, wow, you're really brave for the cold message. Ha ha ha. And so I put something back together to voice message her back. And really, a cold message is someone that you haven't talked to in years. It's someone that you don't know, right? And so as long as we're doing our connecting part, building relationships, commenting on their posts, seeing them in public, hearting their stories, stuff like that, they're not a stranger. You're absolutely not cold calling them. And then also explain how, you know what, this isn't a cold message at all. I purposely messaged you because of this, this, and this. And I really believe that you would be amazing at it because of this, this, and this. And this message wasn't an accident. I purposely did this because of that, right? So that's a good rebuttal.
Well, it can take you can go back to that compliment character, compliment ambition, right?
Yeah.
You can revert back to that.
So you may get something like that. I've got that. And then the last thing we're going to talk and touch on real quick is what if someone ghosts you?
Has anyone ever been ghosted? Yeah. I've ghosted people. I've done it. I've been ghosted. But so for me, real quick,
go ahead.
What I realize is when someone ghosts me, because I do it sometimes, it's not personal. Sometimes I'm thinking about it. I'm like, how do I want to respond to that? Or I've got a lot on my plate. Or it was too long of a message and there's too many questions in there. I'm overwhelmed. Or it got pushed down and I'm like, man, I have like a few messages I have to respond to, or I lose sight of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So don't take it personal because it's absolutely not personal. They're not mad at you. Don't make up that story. Just expect like give them the benefit of the doubt that it's one of those things, right? Mm-hmm. And just tell yourself that it's one of those things. Okay? Go for it.
Yeah. So basically we are going to, when someone ghosts us, we're going to think of re-engaging them non-Plexus related.
Can I say one thing real quick?
Oh, go ahead. One thing.
So one thing I'll do before I do this is I send them a message, and if they haven't responded, the next day I'll say, hey, did you get my message? I'll say that. A lot of times that gets them. If not, then I go into this.
Yeah. So we want to make sure, because we're a community of relationships, right? If you don't have relationships, you're not connecting with people, you don't have a business. So we're going to start reconnecting, re-engaging with these people, non-Plexus related, comment on their photos, ask them how they're doing. But remember, you did just plant this seed in their head, right? You just planted like, hey, you'd be amazing at this business. You want to do it? They're thinking of it. So other ways that you can indirectly talk to them about the business, sharing a business post, sharing a business story.
That kind of targets them.
Sharing a graphic about the money that you can make. If they're like a teacher, like Jamie, share a story about a teacher making this much or ranking up. So those are ways that we like to re-engage with people when we're ghosted, because we want them to trust us. Right? We don't want them to think like, oh my gosh, she only messages me Plexus and I don't know how to respond because I really don't want to do it. But as you're more trusted and you guys are engaging with these people, they're going to trust you and they're going to start talking to them or talking back with you. Let's see, is there anything else?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys with this. So this is the Power of 5. So these are basically, this is John Maxwell. He talks about the 5 pillars basically of what makes
a network marketing
book. And the second power of network marketing is connection. right? And because we're talking about connection, that's why I want to end with this. But he says, let's see. The rare individual who unselfishly tries to serve others has an enormous advantage. A person's name is the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Success is dealing with people depends on a sympathetic grasp of the other person's viewpoint. To be interesting, be interested. And talk to someone about themselves and they'll listen for hours. So remember, when you're putting these messages and you're talking to people, really be interested in what they're going through, what their careers are like, what their situations might be like. Ask them questions about themselves, call them by name, compliment them by name, because you're going to, as you connect with people, that's how you're going to get that trust. That's how you're going to get that response and that connection to where people are like, well, maybe I do want to do this because you are involved in something amazing. So I just wanted to leave you with that. Connecting, no matter what, is in my book the number one thing, because if you don't have a relationship with someone, you don't have a business.
At the end of the day, how to respond to business resistance really is about connecting, right? Like that's what it comes down to. And I love what John Maxwell has to say about that. But he got some of that from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Mm-hmm. If you haven't listened to that book or read that book, it's incredible. But they talk a lot about that name, mm-hmm. about how the name is, someone's name is the sweetest sound, right? So do this. Think about all the people that are in your life that you're like, man, you're just attracted to that person, right? You're like, man, I just like being around that person. They probably ask you about themselves. They probably call you by name. They're probably excited to see you, right? And so we have to then spin that around and say, okay, if I want to be a person of influence or I want to be a connector, I need to be that person that's complimenting people genuinely, right? That's saying their name, right? That's excited to see people and be around them, right?
Yeah. And another book that I love, that if you're going to do audiobooks and throw something in your ear while you're doing laundry, cooking, driving, I also love John Maxwell, Everyone Communicates, but Few Connect. It talks directly about connecting. But it starts opening your mind of how, like, oh, wait, I could do that. It's super simple. It's not like a big life change. It's just the way you lead a conversation. So between those three books, we are out of here. 30 minutes are up. We got to get some boys to baseball practice. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Drop any questions that you have in the Dream Chasers.
Yes.
Or if you need any more one-on-one help, just message us and we will chat with you.